influencer nonsense, it's come to a head where I actually had this little conversation with myself just recently of like, am I doing the right thing? Is it getting across what I actually want to be getting across? Or is it coming off Joe's an influencer and it's really cool to be an influencer?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's been a really tough. I've never actually mind screwed myself that bad ever in this whole thing, but it got to me, and I just sat there and I was like, I got to figure this the hell out. And you know, I asked a bunch of people that I highly respect, that are advocates for the trades, and everything that they said came back in a positive light. It wasn't like you're just pushing tools. Like, you got to stop. Like, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I like doing this, but I like doing this also, but this is more important to me. So how do I work a balance out now to keep this going forward, to inspiring kids to come into the trades, but still keep that part going as well? And it's to the point now where like I'll have the tools in a video. If somebody asks me, then I'll answer it. You know, I'm not going to be sitting here every day pumping tools on the post every day. I just put a post tonight, you know, and it was a tool, but it was the reason why I liked said tool. It came in extremely handy in the circumstance that I needed it to come in handy with, right? And it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like I ran out of my way to make a scenario that wasn't actually a scenario to just say this is a great tool.
Right.
Or I didn't just open a box and go, this is the best thing ever, when I never even used it.
Right.
I'm very clear about that side of it as well. You're not going to see me post a review right away. It's not going to happen. Because if I was to open a tool today, except for the max high pressure system, I totally did it the next day. But I'm not going to open a tool today, take it to work tomorrow, use it for an equivalent of like I don't know. Say an 8-hour day, your cut time on a saw, say that's an hour and a half. I'm not going to use that hour and a half and say this is the best thing ever.
You can't.
Right? No. I would be lying, and I wouldn't be able to live with myself, because I know how hard I work for my money, and I know that people buy things when I say they're good. So I have a conscience. Sorry. I'm not going to lie to people and tell them that everything's the best thing in the world. No, I've gotten in straight up arguments with some brands, and I've told some brands to come to my garage and pick up all their tools, because if they want it a different way, it's not going to happen. So, but yeah, I'm literally just trying to level the playing field here a little bit. Keep showing kids and younger guys. Actually, I've actually had more 30-year-olds wanting to switch careers than kids, which has been interesting.
Man, on this podcast, most of my people that I've interviewed didn't start in the trades. They came in later. I came in later. I mean, I did it in my 20s, but I didn't know I was going to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, I did everything in my 20s.
Well, exactly. That's what the 20s are for. Lots of lessons were learned in our 20s, right? Like,
yeah, no doubt.
But yeah.
But yeah. So what is influencing doing to the industry? I mean,
honestly,
that's the thing. Go ahead.
I think it's hurting it. On that side, because you know, you look at all the statistics of what jobs are most favorable in our time right now, and influencer is in the top 5. Everybody wants to be an influencer. Like, no, like what? I don't get that. Like, why? Like, if they knew the side of influencing that I know, they wouldn't want to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, everybody's running around taking videos of everything like that, and it's fine and well and everything. But I've seen a bunch of things that were ridiculous, like things that shouldn't be done, putting people's health and safety at risk. And I know someone's going to, people are going to call me a hypocrite for some of the shenanigans that I pull. But I'm also a professional and been doing it for 27 years. And I'm not saying everybody should do what I do. I just say, this might work occasionally. Don't do it. Or I'll say this is not for young guys. This is for somebody who has experience with something. But I've seen some videos on here, man, and I'm like, that's not good. Like someone's going to die just so you could post up a video and get a shit ton of likes and maybe a couple thousand views.
Yeah,
like,
someone's going to lose a finger.
That's not worth it.
Yeah.
But I think it is hurting it because everybody kind of has that in the back of their head where they're just kind of like, I want to be taking videos all the time, right? I am an influencer and I still don't take videos all the time. Like, as much as I hate that word too, but it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I've been labeled it. It says it on my media passes. When I show up at shows, like it is what it is. It doesn't say content creator. It says influence.
I didn't think about it too much when I first got on Instagram again. I was on Instagram with my construction business a couple years ago, but I kind of quit because I got bored.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what influencers were. And then I came back and started doing the podcast. And I did notice immediately, like, people that were getting bigger accounts were getting sent a lot of tools, box opening, and then reviewing the tool. And but there was no tool it was being compared to. There was no.
Yeah.
So then I wondered now, are people just buying subpar tools sometimes because they see an influencer open a box? And that's because as well as I, that when you're young and you spend a couple $100 on a tool, it really is a big deal. The first couple times when you buy your first chop saw and you buy your table saw, you're like, whoa, and it's a big deal. So you want the best one, but all along the way, you've got to buy all this other stuff. And I've definitely bought some crappy tools. I didn't have anybody to teach me what to buy and what not to. Yeah. And I live, in a remote place, but
we've all bought crappy tools. We've all done.
Yeah. They're still sitting there too.
Yeah.
Sitting there not getting used.
Yeah. Straight to the dump.
All right. So blah, blah, blah. Enough about influencing though, but whose fault? Okay. So, you tell me that kids tell you they're learning more from you than they are from their bosses, from their workplaces. Yeah. What is up with that? I mean, how does that happen? That these guys aren't learning on site?
Money. Nobody's thinking about teaching these kids and not realizing the fact that the more these kids learn, the more money they're worth and the more money they're going to make you. But instead, they'd rather be like, I don't have time to teach you anything. But it also falls under what I was talking about earlier. These kids also have to be aware of what they're doing, where they're at, keep their eyes and ears open, and they'll pick up a lot without the actual verbiage of somebody talking to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a thing as well. But yeah, it is a thing, and it can be a problem, and I've seen it. In my opinion, if because I don't know any of these kids, they're just people who have reached out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're like on a job site, and I don't want to place blame on them. But I have seen it in my own experience with kids that we've hired, where these kids say they're this good, and when they get on site, they're like a deer in headlights. They don't move, they don't do anything, and to me, that doesn't mean you're eligible to be taught. Show me you want to be there, right? Like, being taught isn't an obligation, to everybody. If you don't want to be there, I am not going to waste my time. Yeah. I will look at whoever's around me and say, that guy's here on time every day, probably 10, 15 minutes early. you know, he tries his hardest. He's receptive. You know, you ask him something, he responds. You ask him to get something, it isn't a big to do. He just does it. You know, and that person to me is more likely to get my attention to show him how to do things.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah, you know, we all know about the labor deficit, blah, blah, blah. So bored of talking about it. Like, oh, dying. But you know, whose fault is it the kids are so soft? You have 4 kids.
Yep.
You know, you've watched this whole thing evolve while you've been raising children. Yep. And whose fault? Like, it's not just the kids, right? I mean, the parents are
our fault.
Parents. Yeah.
100%. It's our fault. We taught these kids how to be soft. We, you know, my situation, and I'll just use myself as an example rather than throwing out some ideas here. I grew up in a really bad place. I was poor as shit, you know, and I mean like a really bad place, like the kind you don't walk around once it's getting a little dark. But and shit, you don't even walk around when it's daytime, really. But yeah, but you know what I mean? Like I grew up in a really bad place in really bad times, and you know, you always want to protect your kids. You don't want them to go through the same things that you're going through, but you also have to understand that there's an extent when to stop. You know, these are the things, some of these life lessons are learned by them fucking up. And I'm sorry I said that, and I know I told you I wasn't going to do that, but here we are.
Whatever.
But
here we are.
But you know what I mean? Like we constantly try to protect them, but we can't protect them from everything for the rest of their life. So we might as well let them learn some hard truths, right?
Yeah.
Let them mess up a little bit. Let them get in trouble. Let them, you know, do stupidness. You know, like you can't baby them. If you do, this is what we got. Nobody that wants to work. Nobody wants to leave their house. Anxiety is at an all-time high. Like, I'm almost 50 years old. Like, I've never heard the word anxiety so much as I have lately. You know, it's always been around, but now it's like everybody's anxious. Well, of course. Nobody had these things happen to them so they can get some, you know, I'm looking for a word here. But, you know, like, you got to let them do these things. They have to mess up just so they can build some character and build some mindset to themselves that they understand what it's like to be a productive member of society, what it's like to be able to do this. What are the consequences of doing this? You know, if we all baby them all the time, like, I'd hate to use the word, but man, we're just breeding snowflakes. That's all it is. Nobody wants to do anything because they're going to get hurt, or it's too strenuous, or they're going to get a headache, or they're going to get a sliver, you know, things of that nature. But what they don't realize is, like, you can sit there and be pampered all you want, but if you're going to sit there and bitch about it, it's on you. It's on me.
Doubt.
Right? I'm not an ass parent, but I'm not a soft parent either. Right? Do I want to protect my boys? 100%. Will I let them screw up? I have. And they're fine. And they're succeeding at what they do. Right? So it works. You just have to let them. They kind of got to learn for themselves at a certain age. It's like, I don't know how else to put it. So I try not to go too far off that.
No, it's just some perspective to throw out there. I mean,
yeah,
we all know what's going on, and anxiety. Wait, you said you're going to be 50 soon. When do you turn 50?
November.
It's a big year of 50s.
Yeah,
this year.
Me and Aaron are going to celebrate together.
Cool. He's in October.
Yeah. Or September or October.
Cool. So anxiety. You said anxiety is an all-time high. You suffer from some anxiety.
Yep, I did.